Hey guys, how's it going? It is another Tuesday. It is Taco Tuesday, and not just any Taco Tuesday. It is the 18th Taco Tuesday. So welcome everyone. I hope you guys had an amazing and awesome weekend. We're back to another story from the Bible, and I hope that you guys will enjoy this time together. A couple shout outs out there. We have Rita, who came extra super early. Then we have Yanlan and Ichigo. Jet came in. Jason, Sana. People here, like, man, we got from Malaysia, Mongolia, right? From everywhere, all right? So I hope that you guys are enjoying these talks that we're having each and every week. What are you guys drinking? Right now, I'm drinking my healthy drink. What is it? It's just a hot green tea. Japanese green tea, by the way. I think it's like a matcha or a genmaicha, one of the two. But delicious. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for coming once again. We're already December, guys. It's December 1st. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. This, everyone thought 2020 would never end, right? It's the never-ending year where problem after problem happens, but we are here together, and I'm so grateful, thankful that all of us can join the Taco Tuesday. All right. Anytime during this talk, if you have any questions or thoughts that pop up, you know, those bubble thoughts that come up, just write them in the room and we'll put them in the queue and I'll be able to answer at the very end for the Q&A session. Okay, so everyone get your green tea. Some of you drinking skim milk, some of you drinking water, probably Sprite, whatever it is there. Enjoy, sit back, relax, and we're going to have a great time talking about the story of David. Now, this is not the first time we're talking about David. The very first time I talked about David, we did David and Goliath. Okay, and we're going to go a little bit more into this story because it is a great story. And guys, more than a great story, it's really, really impressive, David's character, okay? So we're going to get into the story of David, okay? So we're going to kind of start from where we were last time. So as a teenager, David comes onto the scene and he defeats Goliath, okay? As a teenager, he defeats Goliath, and what happens then? He becomes like a hero to Israel. He saves the entire country. On top of that, he becomes a military leader, just destroys and vanquishes all the enemies, and everyone in Israel's like, this guy's a hero. He becomes royalty. He marries the king's daughter, famous, rich, and this guy, basically, after that one thing, he has it all. Okay? So he has everything that you would think you'd want. Great victory, hero, rich, famous, royalty. And then what happens next is the king becomes very, very jealous of King David, okay? This jealousy grows so big that he actually even tries to kill David. And David's the one doing all the work for him. If he didn't kill Goliath, they would all be dead. But David kills Goliath, and you got to understand this, guys. David was talented. One other thing David was really good at was music, right? So here he is, like, playing the harp, right? And then he's so good at it that whenever, like, the king had headaches, he'd play it and then he'd be calmed down. But his jealousy grew so much, like, while he's playing the harp, the king grabs a spear and tries to kill David. And it's not just once, two, guys. He did it multiple times, trying to kill someone while he's playing a musical instrument. Guys, I don't think that's right. You don't kill someone when they're playing a musical instrument, right? They're doing something beautiful for you. Okay, on top of that, what happens is, you guys got to know this, he was being chased by the king for like 7 years. Can you imagine that? 7 years, the king of the country is trying to kill you. And during those 7 years, he had 2 moments where he was literally like 1 meter away from him. He just had to go like this. And he would have killed the king. But twice he spared the king's life when he could have, it would have been over by then. Just kill him, take the kingdom, it would be all yours. But instead, he spares his life. The king feels bad, and eventually the king dies, and then everybody wants David to be the new king. Not Saul's children, not anyone in his family. Everyone wants David. David becomes the king that everybody wants, and finally, he's vindicated for all that craziness that happened in his life. But it doesn't stop there. Because not only are there people against him, he's against himself too. And one day he's on the rooftop, and then what happens? He's like, oh, and he sees a woman, beautiful woman bathing, and he's like, right? So he's like a stalker kind of, right? He's like, whoa. And he's like, whoa, who's this girl? And he's like, whoa. And he calls up the girl and he commits adultery because that woman already has a husband. And he finds out that the husband of hers is someone that fights in his army. And what he does is he sends the husband to his death in the most fiercest and strongest part of the battle. Basically, he sent him into death, right? He sent him into death. And what eventually happens is, God says, hey, what'd you do? And David's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I totally did this wrong. After this, he lives a long life. And at 70 years old, he's about to go away, pass away. And what happens is his son tries to overtake the throne from his father. Like, his father's already going to die. He's like old, right? But he's scared that the father's going to give the throne to one of the younger sons. So what the firstborn son does is he starts an uprising. And guess what David does? He runs. He says, okay, just take it. And he runs away because he doesn't want to fight his son, right? So you think to yourself that the son has had enough. Like, okay, I'm the new king now. Let's just go on from here. My dad's going to die anyways. But instead, the son chases to go after and kill his own father. Like, can you imagine that? That's your life. The end of your life is your son wants to kill you, your firstborn son. So here he is, firstborn son comes. David flees, gives him the throne. Is not enough, and he wants to go and kill his father. And eventually, the father stops. The father overtakes, and then the son dies. And of course, David mourns for his son, even though the son was the one that's trying to kill him. Crazy, right? One thing you'll know about David, and one thing you'll know why he's so famous, one of the most famous things he's ever done, is he wrote the book of Psalms. And you need to know why this book is so important, because it's his songs and poetry of the most difficult times in his life. And all he's doing there is saying, God, I trust in you. God, I praise you even more, right? So it's kind of crazy. If you look at his real life, you almost think to yourself, there is nothing to praise God about. But he's praising God all the time. So you're like, wow, what kind of life does he have? And I'm going to tell you guys this, both the Jewish community, right, the Jews and Christians, they all love the book of Psalms. It's one of the most quoted books in the Bible, okay? And it's one of those books where a lot of people look into because they feel a lot of comfort from it, okay? So this is kind of the story of David. We're like, oh, wow, so David had this amazing but yet tumultuous and difficult life. So what we're going to talk about today is, how can we learn from the story of David, right? How can we learn from his story? And we're going to look at 3 life lessons. We'll call it the 3 L's, life lessons to learn, okay? We'll call it the 3 L, 3 life lessons from now on we'll call it 3L. I know that was lame. Either way, right? So let's take a look at 3 things that we can learn from King David's life. Number 1, he always had a clear conscience. Always had a clear conscience. This is one of his poems, the Psalms that he wrote, is Psalm chapter 26, verse 2. It says, test me, Lord, and try me, examine my heart and my mind. And in this verse, he's talking about, God, my conscience is clear. I've done everything I'm supposed to do in the right way. So you can come and test me, and I'm confident with it, right? So you got to think about this. Even when the king tried to kill him for 7 years, he had a chance to kill him and have this over with. He didn't know when it was going to end. He had a chance to finish it, to get it over with. No more chasing, no more of this stuff, but he still didn't kill the king. Right? He could have just taken over. He never touched him no matter what. Why? Because in the end, he realizes he still has to stand before God, right? He needs to have a clear conscience, stand before God. Clear conscience as in, because he knows that God sees everything. And in the same way too, guys, I'll call this like, they didn't have social media back then, but it's like the social media life. A lot of people have a social media life, meaning on your platform, you're like this perfect, or you're like cool, and you're dressed nice all the time. And you have a persona that everyone sees, but then you also have, what do you like behind closed doors? Like, one way, I'm going to tell you something. Everyone is different when you're driving, okay? Everyone's different when you're driving, right? It's like, you can be the nicest person. Someone cuts you off, like, right? Like, the other day I cut off someone, and, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. The person purposely slows down to be side by side with me just to go like this. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, did you slow down just to do that? Right? But it's crazy. People do that. I've seen people, road rage, right? They go crazy. But we have to understand, to have a clear conscience, it means that you have to be you have to have that type of lifestyle where you're good both outside and inside. You're not a different person, right? We can't be just good on your platform or good when people see you, but you have to be good on both sides. That's why a lot of people get shocked, like, oh, he was such a good person, I can't believe he killed that person, right? You hear that all the time, right? Difficulties and hardships will test your character, but the thing you have to know is, to have a clear conscience, regardless of the situation, your conscience must be clear. And then, like, hey, I was good in both this time and that time. I have nothing to hide, right? So like tell me, guys, how do you feel if someone's praising you? Like, this person's so great, this person works so hard, that's why they got this job. But imagine you cheated to get the job and someone's praising you for being such a good person. How would you honestly feel? Would you be like, yes, that's me? Or would you be like, oh no, you don't have to say that. Oh no, please don't say that. Well, you can't. Your conscience is not clear. If someone is testifying about something that's not even true about you, you're going to be like, no, oh no, please don't say that. Please don't say that. What, right? But if your conscience is clear, you can just say, don't go too much, right? But a lot of times, if you didn't do it the right way, and then people start praising you and saying you did it the right way, your conscience is not clear, right? What we have to understand is, another word for this is integrity, right? Integrity is through and through the integrity of yourself, right? David was clear from the beginning to the end. When he made mistakes, he made up for it and said, I'm sorry. He fessed up, he acknowledged it, he paid the price, and he moved on, right? And us too, we have to be those that, regardless of the situation, like David, he was always had a clear conscience, right? His conscience was clear in what he did, that he even said to God, God, come and test me, try my heart. I'll tell you, I did everything to the best I could, okay? Second lesson we're going to learn is what? Don't lose your composure, right? So David didn't lose his composure, right? What does that mean, to lose your composure? Well, the verse I'll use is a good verse in James chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. It says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires, right? What does it mean to have composure? Composure means you are calm, you are controlled, right? And you are thinking about all the things you are doing and saying. How many times have you seen someone become super emotional, something happens, you're like, oh, I'm gonna kill them, or you start saying bad things about them, or you're assuming the situation, and we've done it so many times, or we've heard it so many times, right? Where people just lose it, I'm gonna kill. But imagine, like, how many times have we gone through that and yet later realized, oh, that wasn't the real story? Which means you have to be, what does it say? Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, right? And David was someone who didn't lose his composure. He was always deliberate. He was always controlled. And he was someone that wasn't constantly out of control. And as a king, it's much easier. Because, in our lives too, one of the things that affects us the most is stress, right? Stress causes insanity. Like, insane means you're crazy. And how many times have you seen people who are quick to anger start doing crazy? You're like, whoa, slow down. What are you doing, right? Yeah, when your mind gets too stressed and all of a sudden you lose control, you lose your composure, you start to do crazy things. You're like, what the heck are you doing, man? Like, I've seen people do the craziest things. Like, someone's not answering their phone, so they take their phone and they smash it on the ground. You're like, what are you doing, right? It's like, are you crazy? Like, people do crazy things when there's too much stress, right? And you do things that you would never do before, and you actually do a lot of regrettable things, right? Your mind becomes so narrow, and you miss details, and you do regrettable things. David had the craziest roller coaster life. What did I say at the end of his life? His son wanted to kill him. Tell me, like, as a 70-year-old, you're like 70 at that time, you're about to die, and you can't even have peace when you die. That your son wants to not just take your throne, but he wants to actually kill you when you're about to die anyways, right? And you could be like, whoa, what is with my life, right? But instead, he fled, let him have the throne. But even after that, he would only fight. He'd only fight when what? When his son would actually come after him, right? And when you see someone like David, who really, really kept his composure more than anything else, one of the bad things we do, remember, it's quick to listen, slow to speak, And a lot of times, haven't you guys ever heard from a friend that said, this person said this about you? And then what's the first thing that says? Well, this person did this, and this person did that, and this person's like this. But then later you find out your friend was not telling the whole truth. Or they're just kind of like telling a slant. And then you feel terrible because you said all these terrible things about your friend already, right? And that happens, why? Because you lose your composure. You're not controlled, and you didn't investigate the whole situation. Even David, too, when his son was about to kill him, he's not saying anything bad about his own son. He didn't. He kept his composure more than anything else. Last but not least, final thing. Final thing is you have to understand. This is the third thing. Understand what matters most to you. Okay? So let me first tell you what matters most to David. Okay? In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, for those who have faith and believers, it says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. Right? That's, for those who are faithful and have faith, the number one thing that we're searching for is God, right? God is supposed to be the most important thing in our life. And if you see every single situation that David went through, it was always, what did he do? He always resolved it with God, because that's the most important relationship to him more than anything else. He committed adultery, he made up with God. He could have killed Saul twice, but he was thinking about I wouldn't have a clear conscience in front of God, right? The son tries to overthrow him and kill him. He couldn't even kill him or anyone else because he wanted to be right with God, right? And you're like going, well, what does that mean? Understand what matters most. Because guys, you have to look at yourselves too. Look at ourselves in our everyday lives and think about what are the most important things to us, right? Say, for instance, if I'm married and I have a wife, yeah, those things matter to me. What my wife thinks, not my friends, right? It's not my friends. It's not whoever on my Instagram. It's not about who's on YouTube. It's not about who's watching them. It's more than anything else. I'm trying to figure out how would I be in front of my wife, right? I have to understand what matters most, and the thing that matters most is, for me, in that moment, would be my wife over my friends. Wouldn't it be like that? Your priority, what do I understand most is my wife matters more than my friends. Right? Which means that I'm trying to, how would I be in front of her? If there was, like some other woman that tries to get with me and then like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, hey, let me get your phone number. How would I, think about like, whoa, what would my wife think? Right? I can't forget what matters most, right? And you have to put them onto like a priority thing, right? Because there are some things that matter more than others. So David knew that God mattered the most to him. So he's always putting up God first. Okay, so what would God think? How would I be in front of God, right? You guys too, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your schoolmates, you have your colleagues. You have a lot of different relationships in your life. And you need to think to yourself, what matters the most, right? And you can't mess up this. Why? A lot of people mess up the happiness in their life because they're thinking more about making the people on their Instagram happy. They're thinking more about making their coworkers happy over their own family, right? Over their own children, right? It's really crazy. And we have to remember, you have to understand what matters most and keep them at the top, right? Think about it. Wife or friends, your husband or your friends. What does it matter? It does matter because you see your husband every day. You're with your husband more than your friends. After the fight, your friends can go home. But if you fight with your husband or wife, you got to stay with them, right? And it's so awkward more than anything else, right? So everyone, remember what matters most, okay? So remember the three things we learned from David today. Great life, great example. Number one, have a clear conscience more than anything else. Make sure your conscience is clear. Do the right thing no matter what happens. Don't lose your composure no matter how much stress comes. We have to be those that are always in control and composed in each situation. These are the people that are the most highly respectable ones, right? Not the ones who run their mouth off and say a bunch of things, right? Oh, just because they heard something. You got to see what the situation is and you have to figure it out. And of course, last but not least, it's about understanding what matters most. And once you understand this, it becomes very, very, very easy for us to take into consideration exactly what we're looking at, okay? So I hope you guys really understood today's Talko Tuesday. I hope you guys had a wonderful and amazing time. Yes, it's still coronavirus time. I'm still stuck in my room. Can't go back to the green screen yet, but soon I will, which means it is time to have a sip of my green tea and a time for everyone to put their questions in. Those of you here for the very first time, Espresso with Sky, yes, we gave away a free iPad several weeks ago. And because we hit 1,000 subscribers, but we're going to hit it even higher and higher. We got some even more great news coming up in the future. So those of you here for the first time, just click on subscribe and hit the notification bell on Espresso with Sky YouTube channel. We have all our videos there. There's going to be at least 100 videos there. Okay, we've done so many of these talks for the last 7 months. Make sure you hit the notification bell, then you'll know every time we upload a video and every time we go live. Okay. Second thing is, those of you who want to join small group Bible study lessons, we have it every Saturday at 1 p.m. So go ahead and click in. There's a link in there you can click into too. And we'll hope to see you guys on that Saturday. Cool. All right. Get your questions ready because we're going to start. Questions. I'm going to sip my green tea. Let's go to the first question. First question is from John in Singapore, and he asks, when stress comes, it's really hard to keep your composure. What can I do to help me do this? Okay, so it's kind of like that Bible verse, which is really, really an amazing verse. It says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, right? And we need to train ourselves to listen first before we speak and listen completely. One of the big things, because I'm a super passionate, excited person, sometimes I cut people off and I speak in the middle, and it's a terribly rude thing, right? But we need to be able to listen to everyone fully, and we have to really, really work on our listening skills before anything else. The worst thing we can do is to prejudge or make an assumption that embarrasses us in the end, right? No one wants to go through that. We have to really, really learn how to do what? How to listen first and then speak later. And I would have to say is we have to train ourselves that whenever stress comes, I'm very into the breathing techniques. Even before I start here, I'm like, 1,000. I breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold my breath for 2 seconds. And I continue to do this to calm myself down, right? So we want to get ourselves into that mode where whenever stress comes, our first reaction is to calm ourselves, and we need to listen before anything else. And it's a skill that we have to practice, right? That keep listening to people as much as we can. I think the best practice, guys, is in the car. The other day, I'm driving a car, right? And somebody just quickly cuts in front of me, like they're in a rush. And we're kind of in like, you're in like traffic. So even if you're in front of me, you don't really save much time, maybe 3 seconds. And then I'm like, beep, beep, why are you so impatient? I'm like, wait a second. I'm being just as impatient now, right? Because I'm only losing 3 seconds on the flip side, right? We have to train ourselves in that area. Great question. Let's go to the second question today. Second question comes from Dana in KL, right? What if you haven't kept a clear conscience in certain areas, right? How would you clear your conscience with things already done? Okay, great question. If something's already done, one of the great examples we have is actually King David. Now, King David, what did he do? He committed adultery. So that's bad. He already committed adultery and he already got her pregnant. And then he killed the husband, right? So you're like, it's already done. How do I clear my conscience? Well, think about it. Even when it comes to our relationships in life, how do we clear our conscience when we make a mistake? Is we have to go to the person we did bad to. We have to clear it and resolve it. We have to apologize. We say, hey, I wasn't thinking the right way, and I did it like this, and I apologize because I know I shouldn't have done this. And that's how you clear your conscience. The clearing of the reason why your conscience is like so tight and tangled is because you only know it by yourself. And what hurts and kills your conscience is everyone else thinks that you did it like in the right way, or they respect you for something you didn't do respectfully, right? So what they see and what you did are completely different. And that's why it's like, oh, and your conscience is not clear because what everyone thinks and what you actually did is different. And this is why to clear it, you need to go to the party, like to the party you did it to, and you need to clear up your conscience, say, hey, this is what I did. I'm very, very sorry. I'm sorry for this. I take full responsibility for it. Once you do this, right, then your conscience begins to clear. Right? So this is how you clear your conscience with a lot of different things. You either go to the person, say sorry and apologize, or you make things better, right? Or you can actually make things better. Like David, he tried to make things better because after what happened was his son was very sick. Like, he committed adultery with the woman, and then she was pregnant, and then the baby, basically, God said, is going to die. So he's like, God, I'm so sorry. And he started to fast, right? So he's trying to make things better, right? And that's another way we can do it too. So, you want to apologize and try to make things better. And this is really the only way that, it's the only way that you kind of get to resolve that with, resolve that muddled conscience, or to clear your conscience more than anything else. Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions? We do have another question. It is all the way from, I don't know where It's Me is from. It's Me. It's Me's question is, what does it mean by David resolving with God? Okay. It's Me. Where are you from, by the way? Just curious. You have a name? Unless, sorry. It's Me could be your name, right? So It's Me. I'm not sure where you're from. I remember you asked a question before too, but It's Me. What does it mean by David resolving with God? Okay. So another word I'm going to give you for the word resolve actually means to untangle. Okay. That's another word you can use, to untangle, unravel, right? So haven't you guys ever had this, like, this perfect example, guys, earphones, the wires, right? Don't you guys hate it when you're like, it's so tangled, you can't even, like, what the heck? And you're like, and you're like, it's like, how do I listen to it? Because it's all tangled up, right? And what happens is, when we have things that we've done wrong, when we do things that we've done wrong, what happens in our hearts is our hearts become tangled, right? You can't unravel it. And you feel guilty, you feel bad, and like you cannot feel refreshed, or like, why do I feel this way, right? It's the same with you having a fight with your sister or your best friend, and every time you see your best friend, you feel it in your heart, like, I'm so bitter, I don't want to see this person anymore, right? Your hearts are tangled, right? And what happens is, when it's tangled, you're frustrated, like, why can't it, right? But what does it mean to resolve? Resolve means to untangle. As someone who's like, I'm a pastor, and as someone of faith, resolving something with God means what? It means that we know if God is the almighty true God, he sees everything, right? He sees and knows everything, all your mistakes. So what happens is, if you really believe that, and you came, like, you've done a bunch of big mistakes, and then you come before God, your heart is not in the right place. You're like, he sees it, and you feel guilty and bad. And if you don't repent, and if you don't say sorry and apologize, that it remains untangled, and you kind of want to stay away from God, right? Just like with friends. If two friends get into a fight, and then they kind of get distance because they don't want to talk to each other because they're so mad at each other, and if they don't say sorry, as time goes by, what happens? I don't want to be with them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to talk to them. And there's distance that keeps growing the longer and longer you wait, right? So in the same way too, to resolve with God is to untangle. God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. God, I please forgive me, right? It'll be just the same as us going to our friends and resolving that bitterness and that anger in our hearts and saying, I'm so sorry. They're like, I'm so sorry too. And then you hug each other, and everything's much better, right? So resolving with God is, when it came to committing adultery, he had to repent and say, God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. He actually wrote a poem about it. He wrote a poem and a song about, saying sorry to God in that dark moment. So there's multiple ways we can do it, but of course there's repentance, or you apologize and then you move forward from there. Okay, so that's what it kind of means to resolve. It means to untangle. Yay, that actually worked. Either way, I think that was the last question. There are no other questions. That means we have come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today on the Talko Tuesday. It's the 18th Talko Tuesday. Thank you so much, guys. It is December, and we have gone through the entire pandemic together on the Espresso with Sky YouTube channel and on Talko Tuesdays and Bubble Talk Saturdays. Everyone have an amazing and wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again either Thursday, Saturday, or next week. Bye-bye.